Good morning, good afternoon, or whatever time it is. I hope you're having a good time. This is Andrew Kamazinski at Hokkaido University of Education, Asahikawa. And I just wanted to go through the problems one more time in case you had some difficulty understanding the ones we looked at in class from the worksheet. So I'm going to share my screen. So we looked at the first few problems in class, but I'm just going to repeat it in case there's anyone that missed it. So for our first problem, we were saying either you like Kawabata-cho or you like Asahimachi. So K or A. Turns out you like Kawabata-cho, so K. And therefore, you like Asahimachi, A. So this argument is invalid. So let me try to explain why. The definition of validity. Validity is the property where the premise is true, the conclusion must be true. And this is similar, but not identical, to soundness, where soundness is because the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. Validity plus actually true premises. So then again, the main thing that we're doing when we look at this sort of argument is we want to figure out, were the premises true? So hypothetically, kateni, were the premises true, what would happen? So in this case, we have a really easy premise to make true. K. So the premise K has only one property. K. So K's got to be true. But if K is true, then K or A can be true in multiple ways. So K or A can be true both when A is true and when A is false. Because of that, the argument is invalid. So we can say it's invalid, and we've shown that because where K is true and A is false, both of the premises are true, but our conclusion is false. If you want to be good at English, study abroad. If you want to study abroad, practice. If you want to be good at English, practice. Thus, if you want to be good at English, practice. So this one is valid. And there's two ways to show that. One way is that these first three premises look like what we call hypothetical syllogism. So then E implies S, S implies P, therefore E implies P. But there's an even easier way if we just think about this in the terms that we were using for the one above. So if it were the case that the premises were all true, that the conclusion must be true, one of our premises is E implies P. And our conclusion is identically E implies P. So if we set this premise to be true first, we set E implies P true, then no matter what, this conclusion must also be true. And now I want to do the problem. So now I'm going to go over the problem that we skipped in class. So it's either cold or warm. Warm, no coat. Cold, coat and scarf. No coat or scarf. So this is an interesting thing to see. So we need to be careful here. So we should write this carefully as no coat or scarf. And now we need to fill in a space for our conclusion. Thus, it is warm. So the question is this valid or invalid? So this is a little more complicated than the other ones that we have looked at. All right. So this claim is the most interesting for us. No coat or scarf. So no coat or scarf. What does this mean as English? So the reason I've added parentheses has to do with the meaning. So it turns out this means no coat and no scarf. So we can rewrite this one. So we could say this is D, same meaning, no coat and no scarf. So this is interesting. So what I want to show you now is I want to add a little chart in so we can try to understand what we're doing here. So we have several different things here. So we have cold, warm, coat, and scarf. So we got 4 things. So you want 4 like that. So cold, warm, coat, scarf. So we've been told no coat and no scarf. All right, so coat is false, scarf is false. All right. So if both of those are false, that makes this premise true. Okay. So now we have something interesting. So remember that to make a conditional true, either the left-hand side needs to be false, or the right-hand side needs to be true. So I'll just give you a chart for that as well. So we want a chart of this size. So I want to give you information for that as well. So if you have something like A implies B, then this is going to be true. True when either B is true or A is false. So anytime that A is false, it's true. Anytime that B is true, it's true. So in our case, the right-hand side is false because coat is false and scarf is false. So the only way to make this true is also to make cold false. All right, so I made this one true. What about cold or warm? So if we've got cold or warm, and we know cold is false, then in order to make this claim true, warm must be true, which means that our conclusion must be true, which means that this argument is also valid. So this one would be a little bit harder to do if you're using just these sample forms. But if you wanted to do it, you'd go something like this. C and D, modus tollens. And then add to that C and D A and conclusion of modus tollens as a disjunctive syllogism. All right. So we also did the last few. So if it is raining or snowing, the sky is not clear. So raining or snowing. Then not C. C, R or S. All right. So again, we can do this two ways. We can start by trying to make the premises true, or we can see if this matches something we know. All right. So if we look at the 5 forms, this doesn't match any of them. So it might look like modus tollens. But if we did modus tollens, we would get this, not R or S. It is not raining or snowing. So that's a hint that what we have here is probably not valid. But let's just do the problem both ways, just to see the answer more clearly. So C, this is a premise, so we're going to make it true, meaning we're going to make C true. All right. So again, for a conditional, if the right-hand side is false, then the left-hand side has to be false as well. All right. So we could also rewrite this premise as this, not C. Why? Because not C is false. So not C is true. So then if this right-hand side, not C, is false, in order for the entire premise to be true, the left-hand side must also be false. So in order for that left-hand side to be false, that means that we have said not R or S. Now that's the opposite of our conclusion, meaning we have shown this argument is invalid. So the next one is really easy. Premise, English, you love it. Conclusion. Therefore, you love English or the Constitution class. So again, if we set our premise to true, that means E is true. And if E is true, then E or C is also true. So this argument is valid. So vanilla or chocolate. Thus, chocolate or vanilla. So we can all see the answer is that this is valid. If we want to show that it's valid, we can do that. All right. So in order to show that it's valid, I want to try to show you something else.